A boiling hot Nicosia welcomes the European Championship Circus to Cyprus for the 14th running of the Rothman Cyprus Rally. Seeded number 1 is the West representative of this forthcoming three-cornered battle in the cigarette war, the Tre-Gazelle Lancia of Andrea Zanussi. Zanussi is well down the championship points and is trying this event for the first time and partnered by Sergio Cresto. At number 2, and in Marlborough colours, the new British rally champion Russell Brooks. Second here last year, his win on last week's Manx has left him little time to celebrate his title. Alan Barton is talking to our new champion.
Russell, you must be riding on the crest of a wave at the moment, having won the Manx Rally last week and being crowned British champion for 1985.
Yes, haven't really come down to earth after the Manx Rally yet, and of course we've got to start thinking about Cyprus because it's a very, very tough event, very, very hard indeed. I think probably one of the hardest rallies in the world, and we're going to have to concentrate on that and make sure we do well now in Cyprus.
So how have you coped with making pace notes with the Manx last week? Of course you did a lot of pace noting for that.
Well, we did pace notes for it last year, although the route is so long and so arduous we weren't able to check them. This year the rally is not very different. There are 6 new stages out of 30, so we were able to use last year's notes mainly, check them, make new notes and check them for the new stages, and of course we came over 4 weeks before the event so that it didn't interfere with the Manx Rally, and that enables us to do a good practice.
Of course, still have time to nip back and win the Manx.
That came in between, yes.
Yeah.
I must say the Manx was on our mind all the time.
Now that was a very fast and furious event. How do you think this one's going to compare? Apparently it's very, very twisty.
Well, it's going to take quite an adjustment because Cyprus must be one of the slowest rallies in the world. The roads are incredibly twisty, and there is one special stage, for instance, 19 miles long, where you never take the car out of bottom gear. You go all the way in first gear.
Well, that must be something of a record in itself, is it?
I think so, yes. It's very hard on the car, of course, and road sections are very tight. There's very little time for servicing, and I think the way to tackle this rally is you set yourself a pace at the outset, and you can say, I can go this fast safely, it won't damage the car, and when you get to the finish, you have a look and see where you are in the results.
So who do you think is going to lead the pack? Apart from yourself, of course.
I think the Lanciers will be quickest early on, and we'll have to see what happens. To a degree, I think we'll be trusting on their reliability, and we want to try and get through with no problems.
The third contestant in the cigarette war, Rothman. Their number 1 driver, Saeed Al-Hajmi, in the 911 Porsche.
Saeed, you're looking at the 4-wheel drive Quattro as if you wish you had 4-wheel drive.
Yes. Should be, in this world,
Yeah.
Should be have 4-wheel, and more horsepower.
You think it'll make that much difference to you, do you?
Yes, absolutely, yes.
How many times have you competed on this event?
Just one time 2 years ago.
So how do you think you're going to go this year?
I try my best, really, and we see. It's not easy, really, but we try.
Yeah. You've got a very busy period, of course, because you're doing Oman next week, aren't you?
Yeah, straight after here, yeah.
So how have you managed to fit in the practice for both events?
I practice already here and Oman, of course.
At 4, one of only 2 cars in the top 10 not representing tobacco. Britain's Terry Cavey. A fine 5th on the Isle of Man, Terry, with his usual co-driver Kevin Gormley, is about to start his first Cyprus Rally. This is an event which should suit the Nissan 240 RS. But Terry can only watch and wonder what the rally has in store for him. 10 o'clock next morning, Friday, and the cars leave from Nicosia on the first leg, a journey which will take them on a clockwise trip around the 6,500-foot Troodos mountain and then southwest towards Paphos on the coast. 11 stages, only 150 competitive miles, but even the fastest cars will take over 6 hours on these 11 stages. 6 hours of stage driving amid 6 hours of road sections, and then only 2.5 hours rest before a similar journey back to Nicosia. Brooks may smile, but he, more than anyone else here, knows just how hard he's going to have to work. Work made even harder by the unseasonably high temperatures. The thermometer is already in the 90s and going higher. Cavey seems anxious to be off and into the action. Gormley, though, hasn't finished reading the morning paper yet. At 5, number 2 in the West Armoury, Mauro Pregliasco, who did so well on the Acropolis, a very similar event. Can he repeat that success here? A strange sight, a Nissan in Rothman's colours. Local hero Van Terzian. Next, Mohammed bin Salam in a Manta 400. In the Middle East Championship, which he's leading, Salam drives a Celica for the Marlboro Toyota team. This time, it's a GM dealer sport entry. He finished 5th last year on his first event in Europe. Yet another Marlboro car, an Ascona 400 for Kuwaiti Michael Sala. Currently lying 3rd in the Middle East Championship, he finished 7th on the Cyprus Rally last year. The first stage, and Zanussi comes through 5 seconds slower than his teammate. Notice how slow the cars appear to be travelling over these terribly twisty roads. Brooks is 5th fastest, 15 seconds off the pace on this 6.5-minute stage. Al-Hajjari is 6th quickest, 2 seconds slower than Brooks, but he's suffering from a stomach upset. Will he survive the event? Kaby starts very well, with a 3rd fastest time, just behind the 2 Lanciers. But it's Pregliasco is quickest of all, taking a 5-second lead here. Verzian, who's been Cypriot Rally champion for the last 4 years, is quickest of the locals. He won the event back in 1981. Can he become the only man apart from Roger Clark to win this rally twice? Bin Sulayem is 6 seconds slower than the Cypriot on this opening stage and 23 seconds off the lead. Sala, in the ageing Ascona, is already showing signs of a brush with the Cyprus countryside and is beaten into 12th place by a couple of quick Group A cars. A brilliant start by London-based Cypriot and British Rallycross ace Dimi Mavropoulos, 4th fastest, just 2 seconds behind Kaby. Yet another fag wagon, Harry Toivonen, Henry's younger brother, in a Group A Fiat Ritmo. Stage 3, and with a brilliant run, 13 seconds quicker than Kaby, Zanussi jumps into the lead. Brooks moves up to 3rd, but he's had a puncture and is half a minute down on Kaby. Just look at the pounding these cars get over the continuously rough surfaces. There's no chance to get the car motoring. Al-Hajjari is up to 5th, despite having been off the road twice. Kaby, a brilliant 2nd overall. Pregliasco has a puncture here too and drops from 1st to 6th in one stage. Local ace Terzian is now ahead of many of the foreigners and is 4th, 19 seconds behind Brooks. Michael Sala up into the top 10 at last on 9th place. Having led Group A for a while, Panayotidis in the Golf slipped to 5th in the group. Kyprianou's Talbot Sunbeam, 10th overall and 2nd in Group A. Bin Sulayem about to go off when his steering goes and roll it. The car is abandoned, 30 foot down. 2 stages further on, and climbing the Troodos slopes, KB is complaining of a lack of power below 5,000 revs. Perhaps it's the altitude. Nevertheless, Zanussi goes out with a broken gearbox, and Pregliasco's back in the lead, with Terry still a second, a minute behind. Verzian drops back again to 6th, another to suffer with a puncture. Sala, reporting no trouble, is settling in now and still climbing the leaderboard, up to 8th. After 12 hours at the wheel, Brooks reaches Paphos for service, uncertain of his position. Al-Hajri has just taken a couple of fastest times with the Porsche and demoted him to 4th. Autosport's Keith Oswin checks the facts for your breakfast time reading. Meanwhile, the Opel crew get on with repairing the wear and tear on this Irish registered car. Relieved, perhaps, at last to be able to work in the relative cool of the night. Alan asked Russell about the day.
I think this is probably the hardest rally in the world, certainly the hardest I've ever done in terms of effort. The roads are incredibly slow, very bumpy, very twisty.
So how are you doing?
Don't know for sure. We haven't looked at the results. We would think about 4th overall. We had a very time-consuming puncture 4 stages before Paphos, which cost us about 3.5 minutes, 3 minutes. And otherwise we would have been, I think, 3rd.
Because you were up to 2nd at one point, weren't you?
Possibly, yes, I don't know. You don't get a chance to really check on other people's times very closely on this rally because there's too many gaps, very, very short service points, and you really can't hang around and see what everyone else is doing.
Now, we haven't seen Mohammed since, well, personally, since stage 2 today. What happened to him?
I understand he went off the road and in doing so broke the steering rack or something. Got back on the road and was driving along the stage with the wheel hanging under the arch, but eventually the whole lot broke and they went over the edge of about a 20-foot drop.
Now you've got a welcome few hours rest and then a long night ahead of you. How are you going to treat that?
I'll be looking for the end of it.
A very welcome rest hold tomorrow, about 12 hours before the final leg.
Yes. It's difficult to convey how physically hard this rally is. The Opel Manta is a very hot car to drive in any case, and literally when you spend some stages, you do the entire stage in bottom gear because they're so twisty. So I mean, it's a lot of arm twirling.
So there's nothing really that our English viewers could compare it with in the UK?
No. As an example, our time last year, our total time penalties last year were 12.5 hours, and that's double an RAC rally in 2.5 days, whereas an RAC rally is 5 days. I mean, at this point of the rally, here we are, the first small halt, and already, in terms of time penalties, the rally's been as long as the Hong Kong Peking rally, or as long as the Scottish International.
Well, we look forward to following your progress over the next day and a half. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Leg 2, and the run back to Nicosia. Pregliasco now has a secure lead of over 7 minutes. KB is still second. He's had a broken exhaust, but it's delayed him less than Brooks' loss of 6 out of 8 lights. Dashing round the Troodos Mountains on side lights is no joke. He's still got over 1.5 minutes to make up on KB. Al-Hajri is retired sick, leaving the Rothmans honours to be upheld by Terzian, who is showing signs on his door of contact with a rock. Despite this and a 6-minute puncture, he's holding a good 4th place. Mavropoulos, a fine 5th in the Quattro. He held a radiator earlier in the event and is now making up for lost time. Like Brooks, Christos Eliades has been suffering broken light bulbs, but now it's daylight he can see where he's going. 6, 9 minutes behind the Quattro. With Harry Toivonen out, the Golf is back in the lead of Group A and 7th overall. Back in Nicosia, there's time to spruce up the cars before 12 hours welcome rest.
Right, Russell, that's the first night over with. How have things gone?
Passably well, yes. We had a fairly time-consuming puncture of something like 3.5 minutes. Without that, we'd be lying a comfortable second. I don't think we're ever going to be able to catch the Lancia. It's just too quick, and it's something like 10 or 12 minutes ahead of us now. We're 1 minute and 52 behind Terry Cable, and he's the man we've got our sights on for the rest of the rally.
So what sort of night have you had?
Not bad. We've gradually pulled back a bit here and there, had a little problem here and there. It's that sort of rally. It's incredibly rough. I mean, I thought last year's was the roughest and toughest rally I'd ever done until I came to this one this year. They've had very heavy rain during the winter, and it's washed all the soft stuff out of the surface of the road. It's just left the rocks and the boulders and the hard bits, and it's very destructive on the cars.
You've still got the same distance to do here, of course, starting tonight.
Yes, incredible as it may seem, it's almost as long as an RAC still to go.
Okay, we wish you well. Thanks, Russell.
And so while the crews take a very welcome 12 hours rest before a night restart from Nicosia, let's have a look at the top 10 positions at the regrouping. In first position, Pregliasco in the Lancia. Second, Terry Cabey in the Nissan. Third, Russell Brooks in the Opel Manta 400. Fourth, Terzian in the Nissan 240 RS. Fifth, Dimi Mavropoulos in the Audi Quattro. Sixth, Christos Eliades in the Opel Manta 400. Seventh, and first in Group A, Panias Niatides in the Golf GTI. Eighth, Kermitsis in the Honda Civic. Ninth, Hajit Sapanis in an Opel Ascona. And 10th, Fuis in a Talbot Lotus. And there, Terry Cabey, well rested and looking forward to the final night and morning out on the road, hoping to keep up his speed and finish the event. The tarmac climb up to Pana Lefkara, the Turkish delight capital of Cyprus, and a chance at last to extend the cars. After this, it will be downhill nearly all the way to the sea at Limassol. There's no way that Cabey and the Nissan can stay with the Lancia on this kind of road, and it is giving away too much power and weight. But at least he's still ahead of Brooks. Brooks has had more problems with his lights during the night. They've been bouncing in sync with his eyeballs. Then came a broken steering wheel, but that's all behind him now, and he can set about hauling in Cabey. Terzian fourth, and no hope of improving if the leaders keep going. Mavropoulos fifth, 8 minutes behind the Rothmans Nissan. Eliades another 16 minutes behind in 6th place. Group A cars take a tremendous pounding on this sort of event, but the little Golf of Paniatides is still going in 7th place. And finishing 8th overall, the little Honda Civic S1 of Chris Kermitsis. In 9th, Fuis, co-driven by Nikos Neophytou in a Sunbeam Lotus. And 10th, after a real struggle and losing a lot of time getting out of a sand pit, and he ought to know how to do that, Michael Sala and Khalid Khalif in the Ascona 400. And so the winners return to the Victory Rostrum in Nicosia to receive hard-earned applause for their efforts in this gruelling event. What they came for, though, was European Championship points, and those coveted first 5 positions which guarantee an A seeding in next year's events. And the first 3 in this rally are all vying for that 5th place. Pregliasco now has 188 points, just 2 ahead of Russell Brooks. and Terry Cabey there in equal 7th with 184. Brooks arrives and he must be wondering whether or not he can pick up those valuable points on, say, the Rally Antibes in France in October, or perhaps later on the Algarve in Portugal, just to inch his way into that 5th place and get an A seeding.
Yes, would have liked it to have been better, but you shouldn't be too disappointed, I suppose. It's a very tough, very hard rally. And when we were trying to mount a charge to try and get 2nd place, we kept having niggling little problems interfere, so we never really got a chance.
But you're still nevertheless happy with your 3rd place?
Yes, it's got to be one of the toughest rallies in Europe, if not the world, so pleased to finish, if nothing else.
Excellent, very well done.
And we've got the team award as well.
Good, good.
And so, with a reminder of the European Championship point scores to date, it's time to leave Cyprus and go over to Italy, where Neville Hay is waiting to introduce the latest round of the European Touring Car Championship from the Nugaro track.